Revenge with Karen.
I love your ring, Lila said, dragging out the sarcasm like she was auditioning for a soap opera no one asked to watch. It's giving. Thrift store chic. Is that what brass? Or did Goodwill start carrying medieval weaponry? And just like that, the oxygen got sucked out of the Monday meeting room. 14 people around the table, all of them pretending their Zoom calendars, just updated or suddenly needed to inspect the inside of their coffee mugs. VP chuckled under his breath, trying to make it sound like a throat clear, but no one missed it. Rebecca didn't flinch, didn't laugh, didn't even blink. She just looked down at the ring, simple, dull gold worn edges, a faint imprint of something once intricate, and turned it gently, like it was a volume knob controlling her ability not to burn the place down. Lila, smug in her knockoff Balenciaga blazer and inherited job title, leaned back in her chair like she'd just scored a touchdown. I mean, no shade, she added, grinning at the others. I love vintage. I just didn't realize we were doing peasant cosplay now. Still, Rebecca said nothing. She gave a small nod, the kind that lives somewhere between thanks and you just fed yourself to wolves. The meeting went on, budgets, projections, the usual nonsense. That ring sat on the table like a lit fuse no one realized was hissing towards something bigger. The truth? Rebecca had worn that ring every single day for the last 11 years. She never took it off. Not to sleep, not to shower. Not even during the week she'd spent curled on a hospice cot, waiting for her father to die. Only thing was her father never did. But hey, before we get to that bombshell, quick thing. If you're enjoying this so far and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and tap that follow button. It really helps the team keep digging up these hidden corporate knives. And if you drop a like, well, let's just say the office coffee magically improves. Anyway, Rebecca wasn't hired to be seen. She knew that. She was the quiet one in mid-level ops, always 5 minutes early, always gone right at 5. The kind of employee you only noticed when you needed something fixed in the budget sheet and no one wanted to admit they'd screwed it up. She'd been there for 6 years. 6 years of minding her own business, staying off the radar, and surviving every regime shift and flavor of the month consultant the company could throw at her. Then came Lila. 24. MBA from somewhere expensive. Hired straight out of a strategic growth incubator that was basically a rich kid's summer camp with business cards. And just so happened to be the daughter of Richard Lang, the VP of Strategy, the man whose job title existed so he could put his daughter on the payroll. From day one, Lila acted like the firm was her reality show. She talked loud. She mispronounced basic financial terms. She treated assistants like waitstaff and clients like groupies. But no one said a word because she had the last name. Rebecca clocked it all in silence. She noticed the way the board smiled tighter whenever Lila walked into a room, the way her ideas sounded suspiciously like Slack threads from 3 weeks ago, the way she misread an entire portfolio deck and accidentally triggered a soft pull on a dormant client account worth $22 million and somehow still blamed the analyst for not flagging it with emojis. The kicker, no consequences, just more eye rolls and more expensive shoes. But none of that really got under Rebecca's skin. Not yet. What did? The ring comment. Not because it was cruel, Rebecca had heard worse, but because that ring wasn't just old. It wasn't even technically hers. It was a message, a mark. And if Lila knew anything about where it came from, she'd be apologizing with her resume stapled to a bouquet. Rebecca didn't wear heirlooms for attention. She wore them as a reminder, a promise to someone who never liked cameras. Someone who once said, "The minute they see you, they'll try to own you. Stay invisible until you don't." She looked at her watch. Elias Rourke, the firm's biggest, oldest, richest client, was due in 2 hours, and he would recognize the ring. Rebecca sat with her hands folded, the old gold ring catching just enough light to flicker when she moved her thumb. It wasn't flashy, hell, it looked like something you'd fish out of a dusty box at a garage sale between mismatched salt shakers and VHS tapes of Matlock. But it had weight, not just physical, it meant something. Lila didn't see weight, she saw a chance to peacock. So Lila said, teeth bared in a white wine grin, "You really don't do jewelry, huh?" She was late to the strategy meeting. Again, half a Starbucks frap in one hand, her company-issued iPad in the other, clutched like it contained state secrets instead of a Pinterest vision board of business synergy. Rebecca didn't answer. Just sipped her black coffee, as always. Lila took that silence as an opening. She tossed her jacket on a spare chair and dropped into the seat next to Rebecca, on purpose, of course, and turned the full wattage of her performative concern on her. I mean, that ring, Lila continued, waving her straw toward Rebecca's hand like it had personally offended her. Where did you find that? A Renaissance fair? Some witchy Etsy shop run by a cat lady in Ohio? A few low chuckles echoed around the table, and Turn snorted into his scone. Rebecca glanced at the screen where the Q4 roadmap was projected. Everyone was pretending to scroll or check notes, but their eyes flicked up, just long enough to see if she'd bite. She didn't, she never did. It's unique, Lila added, faking backpedal with the grace of a toddler on ice. Definitely a vibe, like a Dungeons and Dragons meets estate sale kinda thing. Love that for you. Rebecca gave a soft nod, no smile. No comeback, just that infuriating, inscrutable calm. The VP, Richard Lang, Lila's proud papa, cleared his throat like he was about to say something managerial. Maybe pivot back to strategy, maybe fake scold his daughter for being playful. But instead, he just chuckled. Let's stay focused, team. Q4 waits for no one, not even the fashion police. More laughter, louder this time. Lila beamed. Rebecca shifted in her chair, barely. A subtle movement, like someone checking for draft. But the tension in the room thickened, not just because of the insult, but because everyone felt something shift. They didn't know what it was, but it wasn't nothing. Beneath the silence, under the hum of recycled air and fluorescent lights, something had just clicked into place. And Rebecca, she just sat there, stone still. There was a way people looked when they were embarrassed, fidgety, defensive, awkward. Rebecca looked like someone who'd memorized the exact number of ceiling tiles in the building and could tell you which one would fall first in an earthquake. Cool, controlled, dangerous in a way no one could explain. Lila didn't notice, or didn't care. She leaned into the smug, tossing her hair like a shampoo commercial and diving into a half-baked suggestion about leveraging macro trends in micro-content to engage legacy clients. Rebecca didn't look at her. She looked past her. Because in 90 minutes, Elias Rourke, the man whose signature still made investors flinch and regulators sweat, was going to walk through the glass doors of that conference room. And when he did, the joke about her ring wasn't going to be funny anymore. It was going to be prophecy. She checked her email. No reply yet from the encrypted account she'd pinged at 6:37 a.m. sharp. The one that only responded with coordinates and silence. Ring on her finger pulsed against her skin, not with magic, not with anything mystical, but with memory, with intent. She didn't wear it to accessorize. She wore it because her father once said, when the sharks forget who fed them, show teeth, but only once. Rebecca was quiet, but she never forgot. The scent of money arrived before Elias Rourke did. Not the crisp, fresh bill kind, but old wealth, leather briefcases, aged scotch, silent jets that land without flight plans. The kind of money that doesn't walk into a building, it inspects it. It was 3:02 p.m. when the elevator dinged. Rebecca was walking back from the server room. She had no business being on that side of the building. Lila made that abundantly clear in the last meeting, when she suggested non-client-facing staff should probably stick to their own zone. But Rebecca didn't follow zones. She followed protocols. And today, only printer that wasn't spitting out gibberish was on the client floor. As she stepped off the carpeted hallway and into the gleaming marble of the executive corridor, she heard the sudden hush that always followed Rourke. 2 assistants peeled off and vanished like smoke. The receptionist actually stood when she saw him, something she'd never done for Lang or even the founder himself. Elias Rourke didn't need introductions. He was one. Tall in the way old athletes are, broad shoulders, stiff gait, hands like they were built to sign treaties, not contracts. He wore a charcoal suit that whispered handmade and a black overcoat folded over one arm like it had never touched rain. Rebecca didn't slow down. She kept walking. It was a quiet pass, 6 steps of mutual proximity. She held a manila folder in one hand, her coffee in the other, neutral expression. Just another shadow in the building. But then it happened. Step 4. Rourke stopped. Just stopped, mid-stride, dead halt, like a statue caught off balance. His eyes dropped to her hand, to the ring. The air pressure shifted. He stared, not blinking, not breathing. His mouth parted slightly as if a word got stuck in his throat before it could form. Rebecca paused, only briefly, enough to glance up and meet his gaze. His pupils flicked from the ring to her face, searching, calculating, remembering. And then his voice came, low and sharp, like metal dragged over stone. "Where did you get that?" Rebecca didn't answer. Not yet. She tilted her head just a degree. "Excuse me?" Rourke took a step forward. His hand moved slightly as if he was reaching out but didn't. "The ring," he said, "that seal." She glanced at it like she had to remind herself it was there. "This," she asked. "My father gave it to me." And that was all she said. The words sank into the hallway like ink in water. Rourke stared at her face. Back to the ring. His entire frame tightened. You could see it, the memory flooding back, the numbers, the ledger, the name. Rebecca gave a courteous nod and kept walking. Behind her, she heard nothing, not even breath, but she knew that for the first time in 2 decades, someone had seen that ring and understood what it meant. She rounded the corner, heart steady. 2 floors below, the conference room was already being prepped. The founder's assistant was placing his favorite pens, black Mont Blancs, tip-checked, and the VP was rehearsing his pitch in the glass reflection. Lila, no doubt, was applying lip gloss and practicing her "I totally get macroeconomics" smile. None of them had any idea, but they would, because Rebecca's ring didn't just come from a father. It came from a shadow fund that once owned a third of Wall Street, then vanished without a trace. Came from a man who disappeared right before the crash and took $20 billion in undisclosed assets with him. And if Rourke recognized that seal, then the meeting wouldn't be about quarterly growth anymore. It would be about debt. Old, blood-soaked, and very much unpaid. The presentation had all the charm of a hostage video. The lights were dimmed, the air conditioner wheezing like it had asthma, and Richard Lang stood at the head of the table, gesturing at a slide deck so bloated with buzzwords, it looked like someone fed ChatGPT a Red Bull and told it to disrupt synergies at scale. Rebecca sat in her usual spot, off to the side, second row, clipboard resting in her lap more as armor than utility. She wasn't technically required to be there. But the founder had asked for someone who knows the operations inside and out, and for reasons no one could quite articulate, that had meant her. Lila was seated near the front, one leg crossed high like she was trying to show off a shoe brand she couldn't pronounce. She kept glancing at her phone, probably swiping through filters for the selfie she'd taken in the hallway mirror 5 minutes earlier. At the far end of the table, Elias Rourke sat like a shadow in velvet, hands clasped, eyes alert. He hadn't said a word since the meeting started. Lang was mid-pitch, something about agile restructuring of capital flow to better reflect dynamic market patterns when it happened. Rourke lifted one finger. Just one. The silence dropped like a curtain. Lang froze, mouth open, halfway through a sentence he probably didn't understand. Rourke didn't look at him. He looked across the room, at her. The room tracked his gaze like a slow pan in a horror movie. And then the billionaire stood. He walked, calm, quiet, deliberate, straight to Rebecca's chair. People shifted in their seats like school kids watching a teacher approach someone with a secret note. Rebecca met his eyes. No smile, no question, just that same stillness she always carried like a pond that knew how to drown men. He leaned down. His voice was low enough to make the back row lean in without realizing it. "Where did you get that ring?" A few clicks of nervous fingernails on plastic chairs. Rebecca looked up, steady. "My father gave it to me." She paused, just long enough before he disappeared. Rourke blinked. She added one more thing, softly. His name was Haverson, Edmund Haverson. The reaction was chemical. Elias Rourke paled, not white, gray, the kind of gray that sinks into bone. He took one step back, jaw clenched. His eyes dropped again to the ring. Lang sputtered. "Is everything all right, Mr. Rourke?" Rourke didn't answer. He turned abruptly and faced the room. "I'm ending this meeting." Lang blinked. I'm sorry." Rourke's voice hardened. "This pitch is over. Whatever deal you thought was happening, it's not." He walked toward the door. "Mr. Rourke, please," Lang called, panic slicing through his voice. "If there's been some misunderstanding, we're happy to." Elias turned back. "There has been a misunderstanding," he said, locking eyes with Lang. "One you'll regret." Then to Rebecca with a faint nod, "We'll speak soon." And he was gone, just like that. No explanation. No handshake. Lang stood frozen, hands still half raised, like someone had unplugged his brain mid-command. Lila's jaw had dropped open so far she looked like a base about to be filleted. Rebecca didn't move. She didn't need to. The fuse had been lit. Now she just had to wait for the building to realize it was sitting on dynamite. The office buzzed like a beehive someone had kicked. Not outwardly, of course. Everyone still clicked their keyboards and sipped their burnt Keurig coffee and held meetings that could have been emails. But underneath the surface, the current had changed. It started with a whisper in the elevator. By lunch, it was a full-blown conspiracy in the copy room. "Did you see his face? He canceled the meeting, walked right out." She said her dad's name was Haverson. "That Haverson? Wait, wasn't he? Didn't he vanish after that hedge collapse in '09? No, earlier. Disappeared after the Petro-Kron deal. Took billions. Left no trail. Why would she be here, though? Rebecca didn't respond to any of it. She sat at her desk like always, fourth row from the window, near the corner plant that hadn't been watered since someone's birthday 2 months ago. She worked with quiet precision, highlighting cells, reviewing transactions, flagging inconsistencies in a pipeline document no one else bothered to read. But the stares came anyway, first subtle, then obvious. Mid-level managers walked by twice, pretending to check the thermostat. A junior analyst accidentally dropped her pen near Rebecca's chair, then lingered too long picking it up. Even Trina from HR hovered nearby under the guise of needing printer paper, which was odd considering her department went fully digital 3 months ago. Lila didn't get it at first. She breezed through the bullpen in a new blazer that still had the security tag attached, oblivious to the stiff necks and darting eyes. Then she noticed Rebecca's inbox, brimming with fresh CCs from people who normally ghosted her for weeks. Or the way the board chair's assistant, who usually treated everyone below VP level like furniture, stopped by Rebecca's desk with a neutral smile and said, "If you need anything at all, just let us know." That's when Lila's confusion turned sour. Leaned against her father's glass office door later that afternoon, arms folded. "Dad, I don't get it. Why is everyone acting like she's a Kardashian?" Lang didn't answer right away. He was sweating. On his screen, a paused Bloomberg interview from 2001. A much younger Elias Rourke was sitting beside a silver-haired man in a bespoke charcoal suit. The Chiron read, "Haverson funds quietly back Petro-Kron acquisition." In the man's hand, a ring. Lang stared at it. Same dull gold, same insignia. Same damn ring. "I thought he was dead," he muttered. Lila furrowed her brow. "Who?" Lang's lips thinned into a grim line. "Edmund Haverson, silent financier. Reclusive, brilliant, dangerous." He looked at his daughter. "That's her father." Lila laughed. "What, the Goodwill ring guy?" Lang didn't laugh. "Do you know how close this firm came to collapse in 2003? He said, "Haverson bailed us out, quietly, through a holding firm no one could trace. No contracts, no press, just capital. But the board knew. They called it the ghost ledger." "Okay," Lila said, waving it off. "But why would she work here if she's like heiress to some billionaire cabal?" Lang leaned back, eyes distant. "Maybe she's auditing us." That thought hung in the air like smoke. Downstairs, Rebecca kept working. Her inbox pinged. Subject line, compliance request. She opened it. "A member of our team would like to confirm your familial connections, as per the firm's disclosure protocol." She closed it without replying. 2 minutes later, she flagged a $240K discrepancy in a global transfer account no one had reviewed in 18 months. She sent it up the chain, no fanfare, just facts. She wasn't here to explain herself. She was here to observe, and the house was starting to creak. The second time Elias Rourke walked through those glass doors, he didn't wait for permission. No elevator escort. No reception desk announcement. Just the soft press of Italian leather soles on marble, his coat already off, folded neatly over his arm like he'd walked straight out of a courtroom and into a reckoning. This time, he asked for no conference room. No staff. Just her. Rebecca stood when he entered. The hallway was empty save for the low hum of overhead fluorescence and the muffled tap of distant keyboards pretending not to be eavesdropping. Rourke nodded once. No small talk, no theatrics, just the cold steel of business done by men who no longer had to prove anything. "My jet was halfway to Zurich," he said, when I made them turn it around. Rebecca raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. He stepped closer, eyes scanning her face like he was confirming a theory he didn't want to be true. "I didn't believe it at first," he muttered, "that he had a daughter, let alone one who'd walk through the fire to sit in the middle of this mess. But then I saw the ring." She let the silence stretch. "You knew what would happen when I saw it," he said. "I suspected," she replied. He exhaled slowly, as if the weight of a decade finally gave out. "Your father," Rourke said, "was the only man I've ever watched bankrupt a nation without breaking a sweat. He pulled us out of the gutter in 2003, quietly, without credit. The board begged him for a deal. He gave it to them, but on one condition." Rebecca tilted her head. "No record." Rourke nodded. "No trace, no contracts, just one sealed agreement. A silent founding partnership, undocumented, unspoken, and protected by blood." He looked down at her hand. "That ring, that's the only copy." For a moment, it was just them, two shadows in a corridor built on secrets. Rourke reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small black card, embossed, unlabeled. "There's a vault in Geneva," he said. "Inside it, your father's final ledger. He told me you'd come one day." And when you did, the firm would already be testing you. He handed her the card. Welcome to the audit. Rebecca didn't flinch. She slipped the card into her folder like it was a meeting note. Later that afternoon, while Lang scrambled to control the rumor mill and Lila sat fuming in a boardroom brainstorming engagement strategies, Rebecca returned to her desk. He didn't speak to anyone. She logged into a secure terminal, the one only 2 people in the firm knew existed. She opened an encrypted portal and typed 9 lines of code, lines passed down from father to daughter like a lullaby written in algorithms. The screen flickered. A green seal appeared, active. She began making calls, not loud ones, not panicked. Old numbers, obscure extensions. Most rang twice before someone picked up and said nothing at all. He sent 3 emails. No subject lines, only strings of numbers. Each ended with a single letter. H. Downstairs, the front desk buzzer rang. The courier wasn't dressed in a suit, no badge, just a gray wool coat and an expression that said, "Don't ask." He carried 1 envelope, no postage, no return address, thick ivory parchment, sealed in red wax. He handed it to the receptionist and left without a word. Name on the front was written in deep ink, to the chair of the board. Eyes only. Upstairs, Lang stood in front of the mirror in the executive washroom, trying to calm his breathing. He adjusted his tie, rubbed his temples. He still thought he had time. Still believed this was just a PR hiccup, a rogue intern with a rich daddy. He didn't know the seal had already been broken. Didn't know that somewhere inside the vault, beneath layers of encryption and non-disclosure fog, there existed a document, signed by every founding partner, co-signed by Edmund Haverson, with 1 clause written in plain language: if ever the firm forgets where it came from, remind them. Rebecca watched the delivery alert ping her screen. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Richard Lang's voice boomed louder than the Monday crowd at a failing steakhouse happy hour. "I don't care what kind of soap opera this is turning into," he barked across the floor, red-faced and sweating through his collar. She undermined the meeting. Rourke walked. The client walked. That's insubordination, hell, it's sabotage. Rebecca stood in front of his desk, arms relaxed at her sides like a patient watching a doctor misdiagnose his own tumor. "She didn't say a damn word in the meeting," said Jenna from compliance quietly, seated along the glass wall, arms crossed. Lang ignored her. "She's been disruptive," he snapped, jabbing a finger toward Rebecca. "She's had access to files she shouldn't. She's made unauthorized calls. She's refused to respond to compliance protocols. I flagged a $240,000 internal discrepancy 2 days ago." Rebecca interrupted, voice flat. "You approved it." He faltered. "That's beside the point." "Which point?" she asked, still calm. "The money, the silence, or the part where I exist outside your little sandbox?" Lang pointed to HR as if they were a security team. "Suspend her, effective immediately." "Take her badge, her credentials." That's when the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the office glass. Everyone turned. Standing there, Karen from legal, Alan from internal compliance, and 2 board members Rebecca had only seen in passing, the kind who lived in quarterly shadows and made decisions in 6-figure increments. Between them stood Chairwoman Delgado. Silver hair, ice-cold presence. A woman with a voice like fine glass, beautiful, brittle, dangerous to mishandle. Alan opened the door. "Mr. Lang," he said smoothly, "we need a moment of your time." "I'm in the middle of something," Lang snapped, gesturing at Rebecca like she was a paper jam. "You're in the middle of a formal breach," Delgado said, stepping forward, "which concerns all of us." She handed him the envelope. Lang stared at it, confused. Thick parchment, red wax seal, embossed insignia that hadn't been seen since the firm's founding. His fingers trembled. Broke the seal. He pulled out 4 sheets of paper, aged but pristine, typewritten. The final page had 6 signatures. One of them unmistakably read, Edmund Haverson, and beside it, silent founding partner, permanent equity stakeholder, non-dilutable. Lang's face drained so fast he looked like a corpse in business casual. Delgado spoke first. "This contract was stored in our Geneva Records vault, per Legacy Clause 3A, was triggered automatically when a Haverson heir presented the identifier, an artifact codified as proof of lineal authority." Rebecca's ring gleamed under the fluorescence. Lang's lips moved, but nothing came out. Delgado continued, as if reading from a gravestone. "This firm would not exist today without that funding. The bailout in 2003 was not charity. It was a buy-in, one we buried too quickly and forgot too easily." Karen from legal added, "The clause also stipulates an observational period. Should a Haverson heir return, their presence is not subject to executive oversight." Any attempt to block, demote, or terminate said heir voids the firm's founding agreement. Lang staggered back like he'd been shot. Who let her in? He croaked. Delgado turned. You did. When you let entitlement replace merit. Across the glass, Lila watched the scene unfold from her corner cubicle, mascara starting to run. One intern whispered, "Oh my God, she's that family." Rebecca said nothing. She didn't gloat, didn't flinch, didn't so much as blink as Lang collapsed into his chair, mouth slack, contract still trembling in his hand. Delgado turned back to Rebecca. "Would you like to address the board?" Rebecca simply shook her head. "Not yet." Outside, phones rang, emails fired, rumors calcified into gospel. And Lila, for once, didn't say a single word, just sat there, staring at Rebecca's ring like it was ticking. The founder's office hadn't changed in 20 years. Same mahogany walls, same brass lamp with the crooked shade, same photo of the original partners in black and white, all smiles and cufflinks before the money really hardened them. Rebecca stood in front of the desk. Across from her sat Malcolm Brandt, the man whose name was still on the building, even if the board had done their best to turn him into a figurehead. His hands were folded over a leather blotter, his mouth set in a line that could mean regret or rage. "Haverson," he said finally. "I never thought I'd hear that name again." Rebecca's voice was level. "Then you weren't listening." Brandt let out a sigh that seemed to rattle from his bones. "You're his daughter?" She nodded. "You look like him," he said, staring. Same stare. Same silence. He tapped a finger on the desk, slow and rhythmic, like he was counting sins. "Always wondered what happened after 2003. He bailed us out and vanished. No trail, just gone." "He didn't vanish," Rebecca said. "He stepped back." Brandt tilted his head. He watched, she continued, for 2 decades. Watched how the firm used the capital. Watched who took credit. Watched who got lazy. Her tone never rose, but each word landed with the precision of a scalpel. He knew the day would come when the firm forgot who built its foundation. The wrong people started inheriting what the right ones earned. Brandt leaned back. "So you came to punish us?" "No," she said. "He asked me to observe." She took a folded piece of paper from her bag, unfolded it, laid it on the desk. "I started here 6 years ago under a different name. Entry level, no fanfare, no notice. I watched your processes, your culture, your people." She looked him dead in the eye, "And how you treat those with no name." Brandt swallowed. "Lang," she said, "failed immediately. Nepotism. Ego, gross incompetence passed off as vision. He weaponized his daughter's entitlement like it was currency." Brandt closed his eyes for a second. "You're not wrong." Rebecca didn't smile. "I never expected kindness or even recognition. But I did expect competence. I expected integrity. You gave me neither." Brandt opened his desk drawer and pulled out a letter. "This came in this morning," he said. "Rourke's fund just pulled their accounts. 9 billion gone by noon." He placed the letter beside hers. Compliance found 10 separate breaches under Lang's signature, half of them tied to Lila's access credentials. Rebecca waited, silent. Brandt looked down at the paper again. Then he picked up the phone. "Get Richard Lang in here and call security." 5 minutes later, Lang stormed in, red and sputtering. "What the hell is this about now? I already addressed the board." Brandt cut him off with a wave. "You're done," he said flatly. Lang stopped cold. "What? You're fired, Richard. Effective immediately. You can't." "I can. I founded this firm, and I have the votes. You manipulated accounts, empowered your daughter to breach compliance, and tried to suspend the one person who actually knew what she was doing." Lang's face drained. 2 security guards stepped in behind him. "Escort him out," Brandt said. "No stops. No speeches." Lang turned to Rebecca, eyes wild. You did this." She met his gaze. "No, Richard, you did." Lila appeared moments later, halfway through a fake cry that collapsed the second she saw the guards. "No, wait, Dad. You said I was untouchable." She sobbed, mascara streaking. "You said they couldn't fire me." Brandt nodded at the guards. "Escort her too." "I didn't do anything," she shrieked, grabbing at the wall. "It was just a joke." "I didn't know, but the guards already had her." As the door shut behind them, the office went still. Brandt exhaled. Rebecca turned to leave. "Rebecca," he said. She paused. He looked at her with something between apology and awe. "Was this always the plan?" "No," she said softly. "The plan was to see if you deserved the legacy you inherited." She looked down at the framed photo on the wall, 5 young men, full of hope and hunger. One of them was her father. "You failed." And then she walked out. They offered her the seat. The boardroom smelled of too much cologne and not enough shame. And executives, all suddenly reverent, as if they hadn't spent years stepping over people like her to protect their bonus structures and backdoor deals. "Miss Haverson," Delgado began, using the name now like it had always been etched in gold. We would be honored if you'd accept a permanent position on the board. Full voting rights, oversight of strategy. Whatever you need, we want you here. Rebecca looked around the table. The founder sat at the head, hands steepled, face carved from regret. The same man who once watched Lang laugh off an intern's ideas now sat silent while the intern's daughter rewrote the firm's fate. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her satchel and pulled out a small black velvet box. No logo, no clasp, just a plain matte cube. She opened it, removed the ring, and set it inside like she was closing a chapter in a book she never meant to write. "You want me on the board," she said. Delgado nodded. "Yes." Rebecca closed the box. "No." A beat of stunned silence. "No?" Someone repeated. She slid the box across the table. It landed in front of the founder with a soft thud. "I didn't come here to collect power," she said. "I came to collect truth." She stood slowly, calm, graceful, like the ending of a storm, not the start of one. "This place forgot what respect looks like," she said, eyes sweeping across the table. "I just reminded you." She turned to go. The founder said. She paused in the doorway. "You're just leaving?" "I did what I came to do." A pause. "Then what happens now?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca looked over her shoulder. "Don't worry," she said. "I won't shut it down." A half smile. Yet, and then she walked out. No fanfare, no applause. Just the sound of her heels clicking against the polished floor like a countdown. Downstairs, phones began to ring. Urgent, repeated. The CFO's assistant stood up. "Sir, there's a withdrawal from the Rourke account." "No, not a withdrawal. A relocation. How much?" Someone asked. "All of it." The room erupted in motion, calls, spreadsheets, scrambling. But the founder just sat there. Staring at the ring box, he opened it. Inside, the old gold gleamed under the recessed lighting, dull and heavy with meaning. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling like it could answer questions the gods had stopped taking. "She wasn't the heir," he whispered. The room froze. She was the audit. And by the time they understood what that meant, Rebecca Haverson was already gone. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.